Okay, guys, our lecture start now. Good day, guys. Um, our objective for today is to identify the challenges patients face when dispensing drugs in a hospital pharmacy or a community drugstore. So we are all here to describe the different measures that can be undertaken to resolve the issues at stake and to list their consequences, and also to draw out solutions that could be done as a pharmacy or as a healthcare provider. Yeah. So if you look, um, I'm coming. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can we all see this? Hello.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. This is these are actually the measures that, or rather, the problems that most patients actually face when they when they try to inquire for their drugs, that is in the community drugstore or in the hospital pharmacy. That's when a patient that is when a patient is being admitted in the hospital, or when a patient comes into the hospital pharmacy to get drugs. So number one there is discontinuation of treatment in patients. It's uh this is a significant part of drug related programs observed after hospitalization. Some patients wouldn't want to continue the drug therapy, and oftentimes it leads to deterioration of sickness. Therefore, a patient's behavior could also interrupt treatment. So this is trying to let us understand how some patients some patients' behavior discontinue treatment when a healthcare provider is actually administering treatment to them. Some patients actually discontinue the treatment by their behavior, and this could lead to problems to their sickness. It will make their sickness become much more bad. Changes in treatment regimen during hospital stay. You know, a large number of changes in drug treatment regimen during hospital stay sometimes are not communicated properly to patients. Therefore, it leads to miscommunication from patients and healthcare provider, making a patient more confused about the changes in medication. What this is trying to imply is most times, some patients, that's critically ill patients, sometimes they actually change their um, drug treatment for them. They'll be giving them some drugs at this moment, then eventually they change the drug for them. Maybe example, a patient who is suffering from um, thrombolism, it's now being administered warfarin, and maybe the warfarin is now being more potent, so you now change it to heparin. Those changes at times makes the patient confused, And if the healthcare provider or the pharmacist is not communicating with the patient, it could lead to um, miscommunication, and by so doing that, you're actually the problems that you're just giving the patient is just the confusion in his own mental. So number three there is lack of drug information addressed to patients in community pharmacy. In most community pharmacy, we tend to see that when you just go there and buy drugs, you need your drugs, you go there to get your drugs. All the pharmacy just do, or the care provider there does, is just to give the drugs. It does not really want to take you through the whole routine of how to use the drug and when not to use them. So it's a lack of information that is not being addressed to a patient that could make a patient go and take a wrong dose or underdose of the drug and feel like the drug is not actually being potent to him or her. Am I communicating, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Number four, the fast remedy by patients. We tend to understand and we know very well that most people find it difficult for them to go to the hospital and for treatment. Rather, they just feel that, okay, this is what is wrong with me, and if I take this medication, I will be okay. They have a medication in their head that they really want to take. So sometimes the problems that patients have with pharmacists or the care providers there is the difference between the OTC drug and the prescription drugs. Some patients don't really know that OTC drugs are really different from these prescription drugs, and prescription drugs cannot just be given to them if not prescribed by a doctor or a pharmacist. So if you read down there, it has to do with the OTC drugs and the prescription drugs. Most times patients just walk in a community drugstore to buy a prescription drug, and following the Republic Act 10918 regulating the practice of pharmacy not to sell prescription drugs if not prescribed by a doctor or a pharmacist. So this tends to become a problem to patients and pharmacists when dispensing a drug. Okay. Number five, difference in cost of medications. Sometimes we understand how price inflates in some drugstore and it's low in some drugstore. Most times in the hospital pharmacy, the drugs there they sell are mostly generic drugs, while some community drugstore, most drugs they sell there are branded drugs, and we know how generic drugs are more cheaper than the branded ones. So when a patient, due to lack of information, because it's not a his goal is not actually to know how they actually manufacture this drug and the difference between even a generic and a branded drugs. So maybe he just walks in with his prescription in a hospital pharmacy, coming out from a hospital, and he eventually meets a hospital pharmacist there and wants to get his drug from the hospital pharmacy, and he sees that, okay, this drug I got it at so amount, maybe 200 pesos. The next time he comes for that same drug, maybe those hospital pharmacy don't have the drug, and he goes out maybe to a layout and sees a community pharmacy and buys that same drug maybe at 210 pesos. Those complications actually tend to um, cause problems between the patient and the hospital pharmacy and the community pharmacy. It tends to be like, okay, what is happening? This person is cheating me, or this person is not cheating me. So those complications are actually what number five is just trying to tell us. Number six there is incorrect dosing and dosing omission. Sorry. This needs to be dosing and dosing. As a pharmacist, we know, as a pharmacy student, we know that dosage forms are very necessary, and the way to administer the dose is also essential. It needs to be checked properly when dispensing a drug to a patient, because if the dose is omitted, it could lead to underdosing of the medication, and incorrect dosing could also lead to underdosing and overdosing of the medication, making the patient's health becoming worse. Number seven there is an incomplete or illegible discharge instructions. Yeah, most times when a patient is in a is being admitted in the hospital, sometimes the instruction of being discharged are not really carried out well, are not really carried out well to the maybe the assistant physician or the assistant um, um, no pharmacist, or maybe the nurses on duty the particular day the patient is supposed to be discharged. Sometimes these instructions are not being carried out well, so it tends to cause some problems between the patient. The patient will tell you, sometimes you see um, the patient will tell you, I was asked to be discharged in the morning. Another, then maybe the nurse on duty that they will be telling you, no, you're supposed to go um, in the evening. Those complications are not making sense. It don't actually augur well between the patient and the healthcare providers. So down here, it's been written that the hospital pharmacists and community pharmacists are both responsible to ensure coordinated medical care by providing high quality discharge information and also counseling service to resolve unin- unintentional medication incompatibility and drug related problems. The last point there is the lack of cohesiveness and low self confidence as a professional. Most professionals actually don't have the confidence to believe in themselves when dealing with the patients. They tend to, oh, sorry, they tend to doubt themselves. So when you're trying to, when a patient actually notices that this professional is not having the confidence I need, I can't really put my life into this professional, they become skeptical about the whole thing, and it makes them feel like sometimes the patients even feel like the medication is not even working. I don't trust this healthcare professional. So it will just his mindset will just be making him feel or her feel like the medication is not even working, even when maybe the medication is working. So professionals not having confidence when handling a patient could be a problem to the patient, and some patients become skeptical about the medical help that you are trying to render. So these are actually the consequences and challenges that most patients encounter in a hospital pharmacy and a community, or rather a community drugstore. So guys, Group 3 members. Hello, group 3 members.
Yeah, yeah.
We are with you.
Okay, please, do anyone have anything to throw, any light to share upon this? Okay. Um, the for the solutions now to the solutions to a pharmacist or professionals could actually undergo now in order to correct these challenges or these problems, in order for them not to keep reoccurring. I will upload it right now. So this- okay, these are plans to solve existing problems, right? Hello guys, these are the plans to solve the existing problems. So as we can see here, we have to ensure correct entry of prescription by confirming prescriptions are correct and completed. By so doing that, we check all the prescriptions repeatedly, and we also counter check. We check all the prescriptions repeatedly too, and we counter check, and counter checking the prescription is also of importance. Number two, you should be aware of look alike and sound alike drugs. Example of look alike and sound alike drugs, as we all know. Example here, um, amlo, amloride and amlodipine, lorazepam and clonazepam. Yeah. Then we should also try to avoid medical jargons, such as using the shortcuts when administering a drug, like BID, PO, SUP. Instead, we should call the drugs by their full name. Example, twice daily, by mouth, suppositories. Then we should be careful with zeros and abbreviations. When writing a drug, a dose for a drug, most times if you are using a teaspoon now, maybe you say you administer 0.5 teaspoon. If you mistakenly write 0.05, that's misplacing the zeros or misplacing the decimal, putting in 0.05 or thereabouts, and 40 units. Maybe you're supposed to tell the person to take a particular drug. Take sir, you should take this um diclofenac once every um day, and you make a mistake and say, sir, you should take this diclofenac twice every day. By so doing that, you've misplaced your information to the patient, and any misplace means patient will receive an underdose or overdose. Yeah. So then we should also try to um, take time to store drugs properly to avoid mixing up on lookalike drugs. Then we should have an organized working place, environment, and workflow. Proper lighting and adequate space should be ensured in the setup, and we should ensure that the temperature and humidity is conducive. Then reduce distraction as possible. You should reduce multitasking and focus on patients. Having pharmacy assistants to perform some tasks could reduce those distractions. Then you should also focus on reducing stress and work and balance heavy workloads. Time off for meals and breaks are necessary. You should always provide patients. Then, in summary, this is very, very essential. Always provide patient counseling because the goal of every pharmacist is to minimize dispensing error. So, you know how counseling has always been of a point throughout our lectures, how we should always learn to make patients understand that medication counseling is very important. They should know their drug, they should know when to take their drug, how to store their drug, how to use the drug. If it's a drug that is only for vaginal use, it's only for vaginal use. Do not put in the mouth, do not keep away from children, and etc. etc. So guys, hello guys, group 3 members.
Hello, yes.
So we we understand everything that is being said, I suppose.
Yes.
Yes. So those are the solutions. So the next thing that we need to get is the map, the concept map. So just putting up the points together, making a map together. So we'll do that one. We'll be cooperative later on and put heads together and make sure that we are able to get that one done. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dingel,
Yes.
it's clear, right? Diba.
Yeah.
Okay. Uncle Obuka.
I'm with you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Miss Jada.
I'm here.
Latifat.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think our session has ended. So we'll just come around later and make the concept more.
Sir Steven, are we
Yes.
still coming on the Google Meet?
No, that is all for today.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
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 Let's on our camera for a screenshot.
Shot.
Again,
It's
babe.
true. It's
Now.
needed.
Screenshot.
Take the picture. Take the picture, please.
Yes, I'm coming.
Take that. That's yeah. Everybody can.
Wait. Let me on my own, guys. All right, guys. Ciao.
Bye.